Hello, and welcome. Here we are again with our marketing, branding, and getting the sale weekly broadcast. And today's topic is all if the fortune is in the follow up, dot. And I did that dot because follow up is something that is often a big issue for many small and medium sized business owners. And we have today with us Stephen and Jess. So let's do some quick introductions. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Una Doyle. I'm the creator, founder of creativeflow.tv. I'm a business strategist and coach, and I can help any business to find 50K in only 50 minutes. If you want to know how, ask me for a video that shows you exactly how I do that. So Jess, over to you next.
Hi, yes, so for those of you who don't know me, my name's Jess. I work with businesses to increase the profits through customer retention. So I don't know if any of you know this, but a 5% increase in customer retention can actually increase your profits between 25 and 95%, which is huge. So I take my clients through a process that I've created, 6 steps to it. The first step is all about looking at what opportunities that brand has and how they can capitalize on it, all the way through to making sure that they've got the assets to get a huge return on the marketing investment. So if you want to know what them other steps are and maybe you feel a bit curious, just drop me a message. I've got a quick video that goes through each step and you'll be able to see how it can impact your business.
Fantastic. And now over to Steve. Stephen, we've lost your image. So we can't see you. Are you still there?
Oh, I don't know. Hang on. Sorry. Yes. Sorry.
There we go. Yeah, just make sure you do
Good
not disturb
afternoon,
us
everybody. It's on. I don't know what happened there. Sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Stephen Lerman from Chameleon BDS, Outsourced Business Development Service. So for those people that don't like to make phone calls, haven't got the resource to make phone calls, haven't got the time, the energy, or the inclination, then they outsource it to somebody like me, and I take on the brunt of these phone calls and the put downs on these massive shoulders. So that's what I do.
Fantastic. So great. So you all know who we are. If you don't already follow us or haven't connected with us, feel free to do that. What we want to talk about today is, we want to share some actual tips and strategies to help you to be able to improve your follow-up. But let's talk first about, well, why is it actually so important? Now, I came across a statistic recently. So the well-known marketer Dean Jackson, he did a study which showed that the vast majority of his clients' sales, and he's got big bank of clients, they all came kind of from 3 to 12 months after the initial contact with a new business. So 80% of the sales were coming after the first 90 days. So I just think that's really interesting. I think there's different kind of aspects of follow-up. So you got follow-up in your marketing, you got follow-up in your actual sales processes, and there might be some more things that I don't even know about yet either. So I'm just curious, Stephen, what's your thoughts on what I just shared there?
So the process that you've talked about is looking at it from a pre-sale context. I in my mind, when we talk about the follow-up, I'm talking about the after-sales process. But it's equally as important as well to the pre-sale side of it as well, because there's more to it than just making a sale. The whole sales process is the before selling, is the actual selling process, and then there's the after-sales process, because getting a sale is easy. Keeping that customer is the hardest part, because there's so much competition out there for what you do in general, unless it's very specific, very niche, and there's nobody else doing it. You've got to have something, show something, do something that is going to keep that relationship sweet for the long term.
Yeah, I think it's a valid point actually to look at what happens after somebody becomes a customer. And actually, I know like that's something that I'm often focusing on. One of the 5 steps that I work on with clients is about how do they increase the number of transactions. So that's all about, well, how do you have people buying more often, and staying longer? And interestingly enough, actually, I came across something about a month or so ago, which showed that the lifetime value of a customer. If you've heard that phrase before, so just for anyone who doesn't know, is I can see you two nodding, is basically is about how much does a customer spend over the lifetime of them being with you. Now, depending on what your business model is, that lifetime might be a year, a few years, it could be 20 years. Okay, so it depends on what kind of business it is. Like I've got a client who sells handmade children's clothes. So like there's a limited lifetime because they're going to grow out of those clothes. So whereas other businesses, they might have people working with them for years and years and years. So in understanding what the lifetime value of a client is, like that number one is important because then you understand, well, how much can you actually afford to spend in acquiring a customer and still be profitable? So it's actually a very good thing to be thinking about anyway. But this research that was done, it was global research across, I think it was across 18 industries. And basically they looked at how much people's profits increased when clients stayed with them longer. And so the first year was often the lowest amount because there's lots of kind of, there's onboarding, there's, various learnings that need to go on, on both sides, actually. And so over the years, the profits kept increasing and increasing. And then the average profits jumped. They nearly doubled in year 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was really interesting. It's like, okay, gosh, so it's actually really, now obviously it's across different industries, but I think, what we can take from that is look at, well, what is typical for our business? What is typical for our industry? And how can we look to improve upon that? So I do think there definitely is a place for us to be looking at that follow-up. And let's come to that, but let's kind of do things chronologically. Okay. So before we get to that, I know Stephen has got some tips that he's going to share with you around that. But before we get to that, let's just look at the follow-up within the sales process, because I know with a lot of business owners that I speak to, this is something that they do tend to fall down on. And I think part of that is maybe like I'm a creative, I'm working with a lot of creative businesses, and follow-up perhaps doesn't come naturally. Like we love starting things, not always so great at finishing things. So naturally, so it's important to build the kind of structures in place. So we've understood kind of, well, why is it so important? So we understand that many of the sales come after a period of time, and if you do not follow up, you are missing out on a massive amount of business that you could be having. So that's why you need to be doing that. But let's just first talk before we get into some strategies and tips. Like, why is it that people don't follow up? So I've talked about, well, sometimes it's people's personalities and maybe a lack of structure within their business. Jess, what about you? Why do you think people don't necessarily follow up? And how are you at that?
What's coming to mind is I'm a lot better at it now, but what's coming to mind is feeling pushy, feeling like, well, I've already kind of messaged them, I've already spoken to them last week, and if I message them again today, they're going to get annoyed at me. And it's that feeling of, it's similar with the sales, isn't it? It's like you get your foot in the door, and then it's like, oh, I'm a bit, don't I follow up? I don't want to put them off. I don't want to come across, and then that's when your confidence goes down as well. For me, from past experience. So I think that's it. But when you were speaking, that's one thing that people may struggle with. Sorry, but when you were speaking, I was thinking, how good is it to think of a follow-up as a different, have a different mindset around following up? Because as you were saying, it takes a certain amount of time for someone to want to work with you. You typically, in the post, we said it can take 90 days for someone to purchase with you after they've first seen your brand. At some point it was like people needed 5 to 7 touch points with the brand before engaging. Well, that's drastically gone up now, like way up, because we're at like
11 to 13 and 14 is what I'm hearing now. Yeah,
it's crazy because we're even if you just look around the room that you're in now, the amount of brands that you would see. So even after you've purchased into a brand, they're always at the forefront of your mind with that consistency. So seeing follow-up as just a touch point, just a consistent touch point that your brand is doing, rather than a personal kind of approach or how you've got to put yourself into it. I think that could be a good way of looking at it, because I do think that a lot of the time it might come down to mindset and not feeling comfortable in taking the action.
I love that. So change the wording that you're using to, okay, I need to do some touch points with people. I need to make some. How would you say that? That doesn't sound right.
It reminds me of like in the army, you're like, jump down, give me 20.
So it's just that thing about, it's really all about building relationships. You know, some people, they'll read a post, reach out to you, you have a chat with them, boom, they're a client. You know, they're just ready. They're in the market. They like, you know, something that you said or they heard or they referred to you, whatever it might be, that it resonated with them and they were ready. But so like only, I think it's like 1 to 3% of people, you know, in your marketplace are ready to buy. So what about the other 97% of people? They're the ones that you want to be capturing as well. Otherwise, you are leaving money on the table and your business isn't getting to make the impact that you set it up to do. So, right. So we've talked about personality types. We talked about mindset. Stephen, what do you think is a reason that people might not do the follow-up that they ought to do within the sales process?
Why don't they? Because they're too busy on focusing on the next customer instead of focusing on the customer that's right in front of them. Because getting a customer, there's so much more that you can do with that one particular customer. Okay, number one, by following up with that customer, you're being different because nobody else is doing it. You want to differentiate yourself from the pack. Okay, so that could be, it's not so much a USP, but it is, if you get my drift. Most people are so focused on getting the sale and moving on to the next customer, they don't worry about what's right in front of them. Okay, so once you've got a customer, you've then got the opportunities to upsell. Okay, so not only do you upsell, you can sell to their customers, you can sell to their clients. They can refer you, they can give you testimonials, they can help you innovate. Okay, they can help you if they've got a specific problem. You might have an idea in your head that could help them with their next problem. By helping them, by them helping you, you're then helping them. Okay, and by following up with them, you're creating customer loyalty. Okay, which creates retention.
Yeah. Oh, we're losing you a bit there, Stephen.
Which means you more. And so you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
It caught up with itself rather quickly.
Sorry. And then if you follow up with the customer, you keep them happy, they're more likely going to come back and buy more from you.
Absolutely. And do you know what? Even when people...
And also, sorry, one final thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, but trust. Trust is massive. Okay, so customer buys from you, they are trusting you that you are delivering to them what they need, not what you want to sell them, but what they need. If they trust you, they're more likely to want to come back and buy more from you.
Absolutely. And you know, it's one of the things that I've had to really work on myself is, you know, how consistency builds trust. And like many of my creative clients have had similar issues with, you know, struggling to be consistent. And a lot of that is about, well, you know, what can you automate? You know, what systems and structures can you put in place that are going to help you to, you know, be able to be more consistent in that follow-up. I think that's really important. So we're kind of moving on now actually into what are some of the strategies that, you know, that you can do. You know, sometimes those touch points, they don't have to be, you know, oh, I'm picking up the phone and I'm going to call you and say, hey, you ready to buy yet? Like, that's not what we're talking about here. And it might be sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. but you probably want to have a variety of different touch points and different follow-up ways with people. So it could be a newsletter that actually adds value. It could be sending somebody a note with a link to an article that you think would be useful for them. There's lots of different ways that you can, like inviting people to events, tagging them in a post, to ask for their opinion. I think there's lots of different things that you can do that to kind of broaden your mind, so that you're not simply thinking, oh, right, okay, so I need to call them every week and say, hey, Una here. How are you going? Are you ready yet? So I'm curious, like, so for you, Stephen, where actually what you do is primarily around the phone, how do you follow up? And what kinds of things are you saying to people?
No, we can't hear you, Stephen.
Stephen, you're muted. Oh, we've lost your sound anyway.
No.
Tell you what, while is the okay, I don't know what's happening. Tell you what, Stephen, do you want to kind of leave and come back, and let's see if that fixes it? That solves like 90% of IT problems, doesn't it? So let's see what we're doing. So while we're doing that, Jess, over to you. What are your suggestions for following up?
I love what you were saying about helping people. That's kind of, I don't, obviously I follow up strategies, and we have to move people through your sales process, but seeing it as how can you help people, that's where I get a buzz from it. And how amazing is it when you do help someone, when you help someone when they need it, and then they turn around to you and go, oh my God, that was a great event, or that was a great piece that you sent me, or that advice that you told me, I've really been able to implement it, and it's made a massive difference. What an amazing feeling that is, like, to help someone. So seeing it as that, and that's how I follow up. That's how I want to naturally follow up with people. I want to be able to see, well, how can I help you? Yeah, you're not ready to buy now, and that's fine. Not everybody is, like you say, and it's completely okay that you're not ready now. But what can I do just to help you within this little step? What challenges are you facing that I might know someone that I could introduce you to? I might know a book that you could read. I might have a video that I've done for another client, or a report that I've done for another client, and I go, do you know what? Just reading that might really benefit you at the minute. And just doing that, I think, is such a good way to do it, not only for yourself, but the people that you're talking to. I had a post-it note next to my laptop, and I recently moved house, so it's got like, it's all in the paperwork somewhere. I've not got it out. I should probably dig it out. And it was basically 3 bullet points. The first one was saying, how many people can I help today? And then underneath that was, how many people have I helped, and what have I learned from helping the people that I've helped? So every day I reflected on that. So I saw it and I thought, well, how, I've not helped anyone today. Who can I reach out to that I've spoken to recently that I feel like I've got some resources that can help them, or I've got some knowledge, or I've learned something recently that can help them. So seeing it like that is a lot more of an exciting way to do it for me. And I'm sure a lot of other people that maybe struggle with the strategy side of things, and the kind of, detailed focused things, and maybe the more extroverted versions of us, love just being helpful to people.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone, regardless of whether they're introverted or extroverted, they tend to like to help people. And that's the interesting thing. Like, everyone, pretty much, like most everybody, wants to be helpful. Like when I say to people, do you like to help people? Oh yes, I love helping people. It feels great, and I feel like I've been useful and productive and everything. And actually, us often helping people around their marketing and their sales is getting them to understand that when you do marketing and sales right, you are being helpful. You're not being a pest. You're helping people, and that's really what it's about. Stephen, yeah, you're back with us. Let's see if we can hear you. Oh no! Oh man, what is going on?
No, I can't hear you.
I wonder, do you want to try taking out your earphones and see? Yeah, we can see you. We just can't hear you. Do you want to disconnect your earphones and see if maybe that makes a difference? No. So you've actually disconnected them, have you? bet it's lots of fun for for people watching.
I know.
Oh, hang on. I hear
I've no
something
idea what's going on.
Hey.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Hello?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can hear you.
we can hear you now,
Remember
Stephen.
what you wanted to say.
I'm not sure if Stephen can hear us. Can you hear us, Stephen? Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh no.
Oh,
I'm
my
not sure what's
God,
happening.
I can't believe this. This is ridiculous. I can't hear you at all now.
We can
Okay,
hear you.
this is
No,
so
I can't
strange.
hear you. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
The IT people that are watching this will be.
Hello.
Yeah, we've not had this before.
No.
Oh man. So see, I should have got those tips from Stephen while we could still hear him. I do know what he I do know what he was going to be sharing.
I've no idea what's going on.
So hang
Go
on
on.
1 second. So, Jess, do you I'm going to message with Stephen just to see if we can fix this. Would you like to if you would like to just kind of carry on with the discussion, and I'll just do that for a moment. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, because we need Stephen back in the room to give us all them juicy tips.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so I like as well the point that we were talking about at the beginning with follow up. And you know, I'm guilty of this as well. I'm going to hold my hands up. When you think of following up, you think it's someone that's not bought into your product or your service yet, and you're thinking, right, okay, I've had that first touch point with them. Now I need to follow up. Okay, now they're a client. Now I move on to the next person, or they're not a client. I move on to the next person. And you know, Stephen at the beginning made an interesting point of the following up is always along the journey. And again, I think it was last week, wasn't it? It's clever how all these talks tie into each other. Last week we was talking about processes and kind of, you know, how we were talking about planning, you know, initially, but within that conversation we started speaking about having the right processes in place and mapping out your processes so you can refer back to them and give them other people to do. And I think with your sales kind of strategy, having them follow up processes in place, depending on what stage of the sales funnel they're at, is also crucial, really, because, you know, say that you do get, you know, for me, a lot of my client work takes a lot of my time. So once I get new client work on, a lot of my time is taken up by being with that client. So sometimes my sale process can get left behind, you know, hold my hands up, guilty. So having them processes in place where you can work with someone to prevent that from happening. So I work with a VA as well. So I could easily give my VA my sales process, my follow-up process, and say, please, can you follow up with these people that I've had a chat with this past couple of weeks? Just see where they're at, see if there's anything they're struggling with and how I can help. And then that is also being done whilst you're not actually having to actively sit there and do it. And it's also being done to a standard, whereas if it was you, you know, or anyone else that you was to outsource. So I think that's a really good kind of way of keeping it uniformed and making sure that it's right, and having a different strategy for different stages. So you're going to follow up with existing clients different than what you're going to follow up with potential clients. You know, you'll have a different relationship with them at different stages. So also knowing that journey and knowing what them stages are will help you have a system where you can move them up to the next step a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great, and I also use my VA for a lot of follow up, and we're trying to refine those processes actually, because, you know, as I'm kind of changing and improving things in my business, it's like, okay, actually, how can we do this? And I think, you know, as people get busier, you know, don't feel bad about having a team member help you follow up. Like that's what happens in bigger businesses. You know, and as you grow, then you're going to need to do that. You cannot be the one that does everything. So yeah, it's I think that's really important. And
I think knowing the journey as well, because I was working on this with one of my clients that I've got at the minute, and we were setting up a plan for the new website, and it was looking at the journey, the client's journey, and thinking, right, okay, where does my website fit in this? So at the first touch point that he kind of has with his clients and people that are potential clients is online, you know, through LinkedIn, webinars, his social media and things like that. And then he wants people to go to his website. So his website will be set out in a way that it's talking to them people that already know him.
Yeah.
And then he'll want, you know, them to book on a session, and then he'll want them to do this and that. So once you know that journey, you know what step you're taking people on. So on his social media, on his blogs, on his LinkedIn, he's directing people to his website. Once he's got people on his website, he's following up with them, directing them to an events page. You know, this is what I'm doing when I'm doing it. Come and join us.
Yeah.
So once you know that journey as well, you know what follow up you need to do for the next step. You know, is it you know, I've got this event coming up. You know, come and join us. Come and see us. Or is it, you know, okay, where are you at with your challenges? How have you kind of overcome what we've talked about last time? How was your talk with such a body that I introduced you to? How was that book that I recommended to you? You know, just it's going to be different at each stages, and mapping out that journey will help you know exactly what that follow up would intend.
I think there's times when that can be very structured and automated depending on the type of business, and then there's times when it needs to be very personal. And some of that will depend on the business owner themselves, and some will depend on the industry that they're in, at the stage of business that they're in as well. You know, when you're in early stage, it's all you, you know, but then as you grow, you can have team members doing things. You can afford to pay for systems that can help you to automate some of these things. And I think, you know, sometimes the more kind of extrovert people feel bad about having a system doing something. I mean, I know, like, there are people who I know who even don't like people sending them a calendar link. And I just can't get my head around that. It's like, but why? Like, if someone's agreed, like, you know, they've asked for a meeting with you, or you've spoken to them and suggested a meeting and they said yes, why not send them a calendar link, you know? But anyway, it's I think maybe they've been spammed with them or something. But, you know, if you got agreements, like, why not? And that's the thing. If somebody has been, you know, has experienced some value from you and they want to follow up, like, it's not about spamming people. You know, you've got to be adding value, whether it's through a system or whether it's in person. I mean, you can spam in person by, you know, calling people in ways that don't work, or emailing them in ways that don't work. Stephen, let's see. I know you can hear us now. Can we hear you?
Hello.
Yay! Fantastic.
Sorry,
Well,
I'm so sorry.
Working.
Yes.
While your tech is working, let's go for it. So let's share. Do you have some tips for following up before the sale as well as the ones after, or is it just, or is it the ones after that you're focusing on?
So I'd focus my follow up is really after the sale.
Great. Go with that then.
Yeah. So in terms of tips for after the sale, so once you've got the sale, you want to keep those lines of communication open in whatever way you can. So what I think is a great tip is it shouldn't always just be about getting another sale. You know, you've got one sale, you've hooked them, and now they're a customer. So now you want to add value. So if you come across any articles or things of relevance to their industry that they may not have seen or that you may be privy to, send these to your customer. You know, make them feel a bit special, a bit loved. You know, maybe it's a webinar or something that they may not have seen, like any type of content that you think that might be relevant to them, send it to them, share it. Just keep those lines of communication open, so they'll then come to realize that you're not always about the sale, that you want to add more value to their business.
Great, absolutely. And by the way, for those of you who are watching live, put hashtag live in the comments. If you're watching the replay, put hashtag replay. If you have any questions about follow up either before or after a sale is made, then, you know, do let us know as well. Okay, so you're talking about, you know, making them feel special, and you know, so whatever that might be. I mean, one thing that I will do sometimes as well is I'll send a handwritten card, you know, congratulating somebody for, you know, having the courage to go on this journey, and things like that. So that's one way that I look to do that. So great. What else would you suggest that people do, Stephen?
Actually, I just want to build on what you just said. One of my number one tips was sending a thank you once you got the business. And I think I shared this with you earlier in the week. I once worked for a guy who used to send his new clients a mini Maglite torch, and basically it said, "You've seen the light and chosen us. So here, take this small gift from us that you're never in the dark ever again," which is kind of cheesy, but we had it engraved with their company's initials on,
interesting.
which was great. Another tip, if I can give a tip, is if you've done a good job for somebody, ask for the referral.
Definitely.
Why not? There's no better form of advertising than a word of mouth recommendation. Happy customers will always refer you on. And if you don't ask, you don't get.
And not everybody thinks of it, okay? Sometimes people might think or just assume, oh, you're too busy to want any more business. And they might not realize, well, actually, I'm setting things up in the background so that I can handle more customers. And they might not know. So they might, and some people will naturally tell everybody when they've come across somebody that's really good. But other people don't naturally do that, but they're very happy to when asked. And even if they don't necessarily know someone else that would be in the same situation as them or similar, that would require your products or services, you can always ask for a testimonial or case study.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, I was just going to add on to that, like the kind of importance or effective, a benefit, I suppose, of really knowing your target audience and your ideal customer to a T, really knowing everything about them. So then when you are talking to these people asking for referrals or asking, do you know anyone who, you can be that specific that they go, oh my God, yeah, like Bob would be great. I never would have put you together before until you said that. I'll give him a call and see if he wants to talk to you. So again, going right back to the foundations of it, making sure you really know who you want so people can help you get them. Yeah.
Absolutely. Very good point, Jess. Thank you. Great. Stephen, please continue.
Sorry, I was just going to say one thing, going back to the whole referral side of things. When a recommendation or a referral comes from somebody that's actually used the product or service, it adds that extra layer of credibility and trust, which is so important because somebody's more likely to use your services if they know somebody that's already used them and has had a good experience. So for me, that is paramount. That would be up there as one of my top 3 tips.
Definitely. I mean, and in the absence of an actual referral, getting those reviews and testimonials is important. I mean, if you think of the last time you bought something on Amazon, like, you kind of look at the product details and then you go, scroll down to the reviews, especially if you're comparing products and things as well. Now, obviously, you want to get out of the comparison game, particularly for service-based businesses. But yeah, no, I think that's some really important points, Stephen. Wonderful. What else have you got for us?
Always try to head off problems at the pass if there are any. Now, in an ideal world, there would be no problem. So you make a sale and there's never an issue. But it's always good to check in to make sure that there isn't a problem. And there might be a problem, but the customer is like, well, do I really want to bother them? Are they going to have time to sort it out? If you head that problem off at the pass, they're going to see you as being extremely proactive and wanting to make sure that it's the after-sales service is just as important as the pre-sales service.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually, because if you think about when you go for a meal, what happens after you serve your food? 5-10 minutes later, the server comes back round. Is everything okay? So it gives you an opportunity for people to say, actually, no. Now, if you're in England, if you're in Britain or Ireland, the chances are, even if something was wrong, you wouldn't speak up anyway, which always befuddles me. I'm like, why? If something's wrong, say so. But yeah, that's what we need to do, isn't it? We need to check in with customers.
Yeah, but
how's everything going?
Absolutely, because there's two sides to it. So number one, if there is a problem, they might be more inclined to say something because you've approached them.
Yeah.
But number two, on the flip side, they might then come to say, oh, you know what? I've not got a problem, but I was thinking about, and it might be an additional service or product that they're offering, or not they're offering, that they want. And then they're not quite sure whether you do it. So then they ask you because you become approachable. So there's two sides to the heading off problems and being proactive and keeping in touch. And it all leads to communication. It's all about being there, picking up the phone, sending a note, sending an email, and keeping in touch and keeping those lines of communication open. So it all revolves around communication.
Yes, the C word, not Christmas, communication. Yeah, definitely. And of course, something else as well. I think sometimes people can be afraid of highlighting or uncovering any problems that there might be. Yeah, actually, if there is a problem and you highlight that, you solve it for them, you're open about, okay, is everything still okay? Then they're going to be so much more loyal to you because you've actually solved that problem. And that's something that people aren't necessarily aware of. So that can make a big difference as well.
As well with that, I suppose, when you're getting testimonials and reviews and case studies, whatever that looks like for you and your business, don't be afraid to put in the messy parts in there. Don't be afraid to tell people about the challenges or even the worries that your customer had before, getting your product, during your product. Maybe there was something holding them back. They had some hesitation about buying it. Maybe they had a problem with what you were, giving them. And then you overcome that and now they're happy as ever. Don't be afraid to communicate that messy bit, because as well, when people that buy based off, reviews and testimonials and looking at other people's opinions, they're very much looking for them messy bits and thinking, how have they, got over that? How have they helped the customer or client through that? Because I want to know that if I have a bad experience or something happens, I want to know that they're going to be there and help me along the way. So a lot of the time when people are looking for reviews, they're looking for them things. So yeah, don't be afraid to communicate that and tell people about that and be open about the process and what's going on.
Absolutely. Nazia's just agreeing with us. Absolutely agree. Testimonials are so powerful and important to your business. I think we're all in vehement agreement here with us when it comes to that.
I've got another tip for the other side of the sale when you don't get the sale. If you're interested in hearing one of those,
that's a really good point.
Because, we're talking about touch points, aren't we? We were talking about touch points earlier, how now there's more, you need more and more touch points. So it used to be send a couple of emails and eventually you'll get a response either way. So now what I always do is I always leave the door open. So if somebody says no, I never take it as a definite no. It's a no for now. I learned that in my network marketing lives. So N is no for now. So basically leave a door open, just ajar, because you never ever know when that one person is going to need your product or service. So always leave with a smile on your face, and because you just don't know. Because when they say no, it might not be because of you. It might be because something's going on in their life. They might not need the service or product right now. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. So always be polite, be professional, and be prepared to make that sale down the line. So it's 3 Ps: polite, professional, and prepared. There we go, 3 Ps.
Fantastic. I love that. And I think what's really interesting as well is, a lot of this comes down to being a good human being. At the end of the day, maybe we should have just started this live and gone, right, be a good human. Okay, bye. So, because that's everything that we've talked about. That's really what it's about. It's about helping. It's about adding value. It's about communicating, allowing people to know kind of where you are with things, and checking in to see where they are. It's about checking in to make sure everyone's okay. Once you've actually got the sale, and the other thing is, if just kind of going back to your point, Stephen, about if you haven't made the sale, who knows who that person might refer you to in the future. And I think, you know, sometimes people are afraid to say no to a client, that they might be kind of, oh, well, I'm interested in what you do. Like there's something that they feel, that, you know, they feel that compellingness of, you know, something about you or what you do, or your offers, but somehow it's logically not a good fit, but that emotional thing is there. And it can be tempting, I think, for people in those situations to say, oh, well, you know, well, come on board with us, and you know, we'll help you with X. And then it ends up being a bad relationship, a bad situation, because it wasn't actually a good fit. Whereas if you say no, then that person will actually appreciate the fact that they weren't sold to, that you genuinely took their needs into account. And that, you know, comes back to trust, doesn't it? That is going to build trust, because they now know that when you say something, that you mean it, and that they can depend upon it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, we've lost Steve again. Stephen again. Oh, we've not had this before, so apologies to viewers. But I think we can. Oh, he's back. I think I don't know. I think we've pretty much covered what we set out to do today. You know, and for those of you who are joining us later, please go back and you know, watch from the beginning. You can watch exactly here at the same link. I'm just curious, you know, like Jess, and I'll come to you, Steve, in a moment. Hopefully, we'll be able to hear you. What's the most significant for you in what we've talked about here today?
I suppose that there's been quite a bit, because obviously we follow up. It's a lot more associated with the sales process. So I thought that I'd, you know, be able to chip in with some really good stuff on how you can help your brand. But you know, just kind of when I was talking, and we talked about kind of the different touch points and seeing your follow ups in a different way. I think that's quite significant, and that's quite kind of like one of the first steps to look at how you're going to see your follow up and how it fits in with your strengths and your businesses and your brand, and how your brand can do it in a way that is effortless and, you know, converts more people. Because at the end of the day, what's what we want to do? We want to get more sales because we want to help more people. So yeah, I'd say that's probably one of the significant things for me.
Okay, great. Stephen, can we hear you? Oh, are you there? We've lost your image. I think he was going, oh no, because he'd maybe had someone tried to ring him. Are you there, Stephen?
Oh, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but not see you.
Okay, right. So I've got my phone on Do Not Disturb, so I don't know why the calls keep coming through. I've got Do Not Disturb and a little bed sign on it. Anyway, one of the things that, see, I'd focus completely on the other side of the after sales follow up, but what you said in the very beginning is equally as paramount, and is the follow up before the sale. Which was one of the first points that you mentioned at the beginning. So that is one thing that I do need to do a bit more focusing on.
Well, I'm curious, actually. There was a question that we got lost with the tech issues, which was, I asked you, you know, when you're going back to somebody and you're following up with them before the sale, I was wondering, because you are calling as opposed to, like, you know, some of the other things that we've talked about here today, the different kinds of touch points. I'm just wondering, you know, what do you say or not say in those kinds of follow-ups, so that you're not just going, hey, you ready to buy yet?
What do I say? Well, I don't say, are you? Yeah, no, I would never say, are you ready to buy it? And
Exactly.
I know you yeah. So it's one of the things is, I always, if they say they're not quite ready when I call the first time, I always try to ask them when would be a convenient time to call, because there's nothing worse than calling when they're still not ready or they're still busy. So it's always
trying
trying
on
to
a live stream.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Seriously. I'm gonna. Yeah. Sorry. I'm so sorry. No one ever calls me. I'm always doing the outbound call. All of a sudden, I'm the most popular guy in the world. I'm so sorry. So it's about. So with the following up for me is to find out from them when the best time to call is. So when they're ready to receive the call, because they're going to be more than likely, if they've agreed the time and the date for the follow-up, they're more likely to be available.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Very true. Good.
That's what I try to do.
Yeah. I mean, and one of the things that I always do as well, actually, is I'd say 9 out of 10 times when I'm speaking with somebody and they're not buying there and then, and they are in the market to do so at some point, I'll always arrange the next step with them. So which might be a call, might be something else. But if it is a call, I'll make it an appointment and it's in my calendar and they get sent a confirmation. So it's in their calendar as well. And then, they get sent automated reminders for that calendar appointment. And then, sometimes people will reply and go, actually, there's no point having this call because of X, Y, Z. And that's great. And then I don't waste my time. They don't waste theirs. And I know what's going on. So that's, something else that we can do as well. Okay, great. Stephen, what's been most significant for you in what we've talked about here today, or whatever you could grasp when you could hear us?
Oh my God. Let me see. So one of the things was the pre-sales follow-up. That's a big one. I'm sure I missed about half that because of my tech issues.
We'll let you off the hook this time.
I've got to relocate to a different location for these Wednesday live videos. All of a sudden, I'm having tech issues. It's ridiculous.
We'll sort it out. We'll sort it out. So I think for me, what's been most significant is actually, when I asked about follow-up and I said, right, let's do one about sales follow-up. And it was interesting to me that you immediately came back with the after sale follow-up, because my focus was totally on the pre-sale follow-up. So I think that's and it's interesting. Like, I would have thought, if anything, it would be the other way around, in a way. I mean, it's not that I don't have any focus, like, like I've got onboarding processes and things like that for clients. But yeah, I kind of thought for you as a salesperson that your focus would be entirely before the sale happened. So actually, I was very interested and intrigued with your take on it. So I think it's always good to have these conversations and get different perspectives for people, on what it is that we're doing. So great. Well, listen, I think we'll wrap up here for today. Thank you for bearing with us and the tech issues. I think we've still managed to get some good value across. So do please let us know in the comments, what did you find most useful, and what is it that if you have a specific question on what we've talked about here today, pop that below and we will come back and address that in the comments. And also, what topics would you like to have us talking about? We'd love to hear from you about those as well. Fabulous. Well, it's bye from me, Una Doyle, business strategist and coach. Thank you very much, Jess and Stephen, for being with us today. You got value from what you got today, do make sure that you follow and connect with us, and do please reach out privately if you want to know more about what any of us do. We'll say bye for now, and we'll be here same time next week.
Pleasure as always.
Bye.
Bye.